Well, it looks like Beetlejuice has got some aftershocks in the afterlife. Here's your look at the Royal Bobbles, Beetlejuice, Shrunken Head, Bobblehead. Beetlejuice shouldn't have messed with a witch doctor. This resin bobblehead of Beetlejuice features a shrunken head, as seen in the last scene of the Netherworld waiting room. Hey, you know what the difference is between a regular doctor and a doctor of the dead? The doctor of the dead has a whole lot more patience. Just before we get a closer look, I'm here all day, by the way. Just before, of course, we get a closer look at the Royal Bobbles Beetlejuice Shrunken Head Bobblehead, I'd like to thank the folks over at Royal Bobbles that provided the sample we could have a look at. If you guys are interested and would like to get your hands on Beetlejuice, he is actually available either through Amazon or you can also go to bobbleheads.com. The figure's size of his body is going to be pretty much in scale with a regular bobbleheads. I'll bring in one in a second, though his head makes him a whole lot shorter. This version of Beetlejuice is only going to be about 4.5 inches in height, or Shrunken Beetlejuice Bobblehead is about 11.5 centimeters tall. As for comparing him sizes with other bobbleheads, I'm going to slide over Beetlejuice and I'm going to bring in Wednesday Addams. The irony, in fact, is obviously that Jenna Ortega is going to be in the new Beetlejuice playing the daughter of Lydia. Sizing from the two, obviously, if Beetlejuice wasn't taking a seat this whole time, you could say that he would be about this size here. So I would feel he would be a pretty decent size and scale with Wednesday. It just so happens, though, he has a very tiny, tiny little head. I will be speaking to Beetlejuice's tiny head more in a moment. First, though, let's pick up the bobblehead. I did want to show you guys what this thing looks like in person. If you are familiar, though, with the bobbleheads, you'll know by now the attention to detail on all of these things. First of all, they're generally made here of resin, so there's going to be a few little things that we're going to talk about that could be a little bit more fragile, more specifically tiny head here on the top. But it's painted exquisitely. You can see even on the side, for example, they've got the little logos there of Beetlejuice. And that's everywhere, other than just the front placard that's raised a little bit that actually has the Beetlejuice font. Very nicely painted. Very nicely painted. We'll just spin this around so you guys can see it from all the back here as well. On the bottom of this, as usually the case with Royal Bobbles, you got yourself a main sticker that tells us what company is producing. It's the premium quality collectibles. You can check out more at www.royalbobbles.com. There's also as well in the corners of the square rubberized feet to prevent scratching on surfaces. As for the actual layout of the land here, we've got ourselves the interior of the waiting room where Beetlejuice is sitting. He's been waiting a while, and he's going to be waiting even longer when he realizes what number is on his card. So he ends up swapping out his takeaway number with someone right next to him, and of course that ends up coming back to haunt him a little bit later on. The actual detailing to the chair looks fantastic as well. This isn't just painted in place. If you were to look at this up close, you can see that there's some texturing that they've done to the chair itself. And they've also added a little bit of wear to it as well. So it looks like it's an old seat. People have been sitting around for a while in. Beetlejuice has a couple of watches there on the sides of his hand. He's also got some rings painted nicely there and some fingers there as well. And of course, he's got his tiny little takeaway number. This one just happens to be number 4. The resulting in stealing someone else's number, though, is that Beetlejuice's head does get shrunk down in size. He does have, of course, his burgundy type of tuxedo with a few little rips and notable tears there. He's got a little bit of a poofiness there on the front of his shirt as well. But again, it's just a fantastically painted bobblehead. The thing about it, though, is that it's a much smaller head. They took at least the time when you took this out of the packaging that there's a little bit of a foam, like a little foam sheet that they actually tucked underneath the head. Whether it be the large heads or the smaller size varieties, obviously they will want to be making sure that these things are protected as they're traveling and getting to the collector's market. Obviously, when it comes to bobbleheads, I had to take off that little foam sheet, and now Beetlejuice has the freedom to move his head about. He doesn't move as much, though, just because, again, like the size of the quarters, he's got obviously a big body, but a little tiny, tiny head. So his head's not going to move as much, but it still has a good amount of freedom to it. Head sculpt wise, it looks pretty good. Dark carrot colors around the eyes. He's got a little bit of molding there on the side of his face as well. I would really love to have seen this guy get released with a larger head too, just before he gets his head shrunk down in size. Other options also available. I would really like to see them down the road produce the Beetlejuice that has the attention choppers, and Beetlejuice basically has those mallets on either side, and he basically hits the springs and knocks the people through the roof. Love to get that one. And I was also thinking too, what if they produced themselves a sandworm? I think a sandworm would be fantastic as well. I'm not really sure how about that would bobble, but if it's anything like, for example, the thing that we had to look at in the earlier review, they probably could find some ways to incorporate springs, so it looked like the individual links of the worm would be able to move. But all in all, though, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Big fan of Beetlejuice, big fan of the fact we are getting ourselves a brand new movie, too. And I think even though this isn't really necessarily from the new Beetlejuice movie, it is, though, a very iconic scene, more specifically, also at the very end of the movie, too, where Beetlejuice, of course, while waiting in line, sitting down in line, ends up ultimately just taking off the witch doctor and having his head shrunk down in size. All in all, it's a nice-looking bobblehead. I certainly hope, though, we do get a lot more Beetlejuice bobbleheads in the near future from the folks over at Royal Baubles. As I was, though, mentioning earlier, two places where you could get your hands on bobbleheads if you're interested to add these to your collection are Bobbleheads.com and Amazon.com. Taking at least that first link, Beetlejuice the Shrunken Head bobblehead is currently available right now on that site for $31.95. For that, you're getting a high-end premium resin bobblehead that's been carefully hand-painted. In fact, looking at the piece, there wasn't any paint problems at all. And generally is the case whenever we look at the Royal Baubles, that the attention to detail on these pieces for being a smaller bobblehead is incredible. Beetlejuice, of course, taken from the last scene in which we see the character having his head shrunk down in size. I do hope, though, that this opens the doors for future Beetlejuice, especially considering now we're getting Beetlejuice coming soon to theaters. I hope that the folks over at Royal Baubles, seeing what they've done here for Beetlejuice, could do the same similar job for a Beetlejuice series of bobbleheads. Hey, you never know. We might even get ourselves a sandworm. Fingers crossed, we can get ourselves a Royal Baubles sandworm. What do you guys think of this bobblehead? Let me know down below in the comments section. And are you guys also very interested and excited for the new release Beetlejuice movie? Let me know down below in the comments section. If in the meantime you guys did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and want to stick around for more, we are going to also be looking at a bunch of other collectibles coming up this week. So making sure, of course, you're coming back on a regular basis. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.